we're a couple months in. I kind of just want to hear from you what's how it's gone so far, what's gone well, what you've enjoyed, and kind of what you've been seeing as far as results.
Sure. Yeah, I think so far, I think it's gone really well. As you know, we had connected for several months prior to really engaging, but being
Yeah.
able to kind of dive into the program and seeing the platform and the different exercises. I think at first I got so excited to really um, push myself to do the exercises and to kind of lift as heavy as other folks that I see on social media and things like that. But I think you break it down super well that you can get the same effect with less weight and maybe a little bit of a modification. And you offer a huge variety. Um, so in terms of exercises, I think those are great, and I'm really thankful you explained those. You explained those very thoroughly. I think a roadblock that I hit was pretty much about a month or so in. I don't know if you remember us having that conversation. I'm like, why am I not seeing results? Because
Yeah.
it was the first time that I had really committed to a process like this. So I guess it was twofold. It was just like, okay, why am I not seeing results, Jay? And and also kind of coaching myself through that. Okay, like, am I pushing myself too hard? Am I being super annoying? How can I really have a cohesive conversation about the process with age, with time, how nutrition really plays into it, and just kind of see a bird's eye view of the whole thing. And once I did that, I kind of calmed down. And, just last week, I think was the first time, I think I'm about 3 months in, right?
Yeah,
Um,
I think we're just crossing that mark. Yeah.
Yeah, I think last week was the first time that I realized if I just calm down and kind of trust the process, it'll just you're brushing your teeth and then all of a sudden you're just like, oh, okay. Seeing stuff.
It's
So
always in the face. It's always the
yeah.
face and the chin that you kind of start to really notice it. But yeah, and I think it's funny. It's cool to hear you share that back because I remember for me it was like I feel like you were killing it. The groundwork we had laid was like, all right, we just want to set a good foundation, lifestyle, get into the gym, get in the habit of like kind of being mindful of what we're eating, and you
Mhm.
knocked that out of the park. So I think some of it was just like a mixed match of like my expectations were you were crushing them, you were exceeding them, but yours were like, well, I'm gonna do that and I want like, to be this weight or whatever the result was within a short time frame. But it's really cool to see how you've kind of evolved that view and mindset over just a few months. And I think a
Yeah,
lot of people cross that after a month. They're like, is this supposed to like be radically different by now? When it's not, it's super discouraging.
yeah. Yeah, I think yeah, that is definitely true. And I had gone through a few programs where I'm just kind of like, you have those 21-day things that you're like, at the end of the 21 days, if I don't have abs, I'm not trusting any of these programs again, right? Uh,
Right.
but it's a real I found with stuff like this, and I find it in my own coaching as well, that you have to live it every single day, every second of the day, no questions asked. And, my husband won't mind me talking about this, but it was a thing where in the beginning, he, I think people could think it's a little bit woo-woo, right? And he's just kind of like, oh, you're going to the gym again, and
Yeah.
I really pushed me. I'm like, yes, I'm going to the gym and I'm really going to knock it out of the
I
park.
betcha.
Right. And then over time, it just kind of became less that. And then I would just come home and it would be like, he's just like, oh, you're going to go to the gym? And I'm like, yeah, I'll see you in an hour. And then it just
Yep.
became a thing that
Yep.
you just talked about. So,
New routine.
hmm.
Just to back it up for a second too, I like what you said about like the 21-day stuff because I think a lot of that people see that and it's like, yeah, if I'm not seeing the result, then it didn't work for me. But it's like then you're also burned out from it. You give your all for
Right.
that little bit. You're frustrated when it doesn't. Maybe there is something you see and you're like, all right, great, it did work, but not as much as I want. I can't continue this forever. I'm out. Versus I feel like we've kind
Right.
of come at it a different lens. Like we're aging, this is a different time in your life. As you explained before, you were in your 20s. It's a little bit different now. I'm kind of coming at it like I want to do this for the rest of my life and find something that works and sticks and that's
Hmm.
more simplistic. Like I don't have to kill myself every day. You're going to the gym every day, but because you want to, not because you feel like you need to.
Absolutely. And tying it all together, especially with the nutrition aspect of it, I was familiar with how to really, dial back what you're eating. Like I actually don't mind sharing this, but like the way
Yeah.
you have um, laid out the meal plan, it offered so much more variety to what
Mm,
I could implement and things that I could really enjoy for myself because I had a few years where I did battle with anorexia.
sure.
And so that was a thing that I was very nervous about. But, and also just because and you do a great job with it. You lay out all of these amazing things. It doesn't have to be just that. You could kind of take a little bit of here and add it to
Yep.
that and just kind of design it the way works for you. And also, if it's not working for you, speak up about it and change it.
Yeah, and I think that's what we had talked about from the beginning too. Like you wanted some structure, but also you guys like to kind of cook some different dinners and have some options at
Mhm.
night. It was more like give me breakfast and lunch, and I'll handle the rest. And I think that's what I hopefully conveyed well is that this is your template, this is your starting point. Like this is something you can use to kind of go from there where you like. And you've done
Yep.
such a great job. I know you said recently you feel like you've fallen off with the tracking, but you've done such a good job sticking to that and like kind of integrating it too into your lifestyle. Because ultimately, you can get meal plans, you can buy meal plans, you can get meal plans from people and use that forever. But then you're always kind of like, well, now I'm on vacation or I'm at like, doing something where I don't have a plan. What do I do? And so that's something I'm huge on. It's like, yes, giving the backbone and the template, but I want you to also get creative and everyone's got their preferences. Some people love certain meals every day of the week. They just eat the same thing. Others like a lot more variety. Like I know you guys like to cook a bit and it's like,
Mhm.
how can we make that fit my lifestyle, but also like not completely have to sacrifice the progress in the program. So I think
Absolutely.
you've done a good
Yeah.
job there.
Well, yeah, thank you. And no, I mean, it's really hats off to you because you really offer all of that knowledge. And, I think with a relationship with food, um, I think around week 7 or 8, I remember texting you about this, that food, it doesn't, not every meal needs to be revolutionary. You know what I mean? It's like, it's not an event all the time. Sometimes it's just Tuesday morning, you're at the office and you just need your low sugar oatmeal, and before your next meeting, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, but I think structuring it around there, and I'm one of those people that I really like a lot of structure, so I'll tend to do like the protein yogurt, the oatmeal for breakfast, the salad with the protein for lunch, and then, but once it gets to the time where I'm home or to the weekend, I could kind of look forward to like, oh, what am I going to have if when we go to this restaurant or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. And I just been listening to a podcast this week about dopamine and all like the profound effects of food with dopamine. Because a lot of people, especially of the last couple of decades, like food has become such a instant thing. There's fast food, there's easy ways you can just deliver, get whatever you want. Like you want sushi, you want pizza, they bring it to you.
Mhm.
There's really no work you have to do to get it. And it's just like so instantly
Right.
gratifying that it is hard. It's hard to kind of stick to a different plan and go quote unquote against the new norm of like, yeah, I'm eating oatmeal in the office, or yeah, I'm eating, like, you're not eating just to enjoy it. You're eating to fuel your life and your
Hmm.
day. But then also, of course, there's occasions where you're going to enjoy because as you naturally should, but it's not the first thing in your mind of like, okay, every meal's got to taste fantastic. Like this food is just giving me pleasure. And I feel like that's been a cool thing to see that kind of switch in your mind too.
Yeah, absolutely. And it keeps it less, it lowers the stakes a little bit. So, there's a quote from a TV show, I'm forgetting the name, where um, this character is just like, I don't eat for enjoyment. But it resonated with me because it's just like you have to just kind of like, you just have to get through and just eat something that you do enjoy, but it's not a party all the time.
Right. And it kind of goes against a lot of what our society is built around. I mean, everything like you go to weddings, you go to whatever nights out, like it's food and drink, it's different events with different foods and all these great. And now, I mean, there's everything. They used to have just regular Oreos. Now it's these crazy kinds of flavored Oreos and chips and everything's got like such an
Triple stuff.
enticing, yeah. Yeah. So it can be really hard to kind of fight against that and just choose the bland, choose the ordinary. But
Yep,
I'd love if you would share
absolutely.
a little bit more about what you do too, as far as your coaching and how this has kind of helped, hopefully helped your trajectory in your field too. I'm curious to learn. I know we've talked about it a little bit, but I'd love to hear
Yeah,
your perspective on how joining this has changed your game as a busy professional too.
sure. Yeah, I started mindset and development coaching about 10 years ago, and then I fell off of it for a little bit and then, went through some life stuff. And then I really came back to it about 4 years ago. And I really wanted to hone in on the understanding that everything that you do in life really does stem from you. And, there are all the gurus out there. You listen to all the podcasts, do the classes, all the things. But the understanding that you're responsible for your life never really hit me until I was about 28 or 29.
Mm,
Um, I'm 35 now. No, I will be 35. That's a lie. I'll be 35 in August. But being responsible for your own life and not holding people around you to the fire for your circumstances is something that I
mm,
really needed to learn. So, I took a very personal approach for when I started coaching, and I just needed to learn everything, got whatever certifications that I could. And the only way that I would do the work for myself and hold myself accountable is if I made it really public. So
mm,
I started, yeah, so I started posting on social media. I had an account, I had taken it down, and I'm regretting it anyway, but I'm bringing it back. Um, I started posting about the things that I was going through because I had the understanding that if I was going through something, somebody else would as well. Or maybe if I had a question, somebody else was thinking the same thing. Um, and really finding that point in you where you could come to the conclusion to make that switch and to realize that before I go on a tangent, Dan Martell has a quote, "Nobody needs to change for you to win." And I really live my life by that. So, because if you think about it, right, like if you take yesterday, for example, my husband and I went out for dinner and he wanted to go out and about and on town and stuff like that. And I ended up getting home a little bit later than I would like to, a couple hours past the time I normally go to bed. But in my head, I'm like, I'm not going to hold him to the fire of being like, oh, well, he
totally.
wants to go out and have fun because me inside, I need to know that no matter what, I'm getting up to go to the gym, I'm getting up to do my things. And if I stay
Yeah.
out later, that's a choice that I'm making. And I
That's
need to
so
hold
it's so
myself to those
hard
com
though. And that's so hard in a
yeah.
relationship, I think, too. Relationships, social friendships, like it is. It's hard to fight that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So that's a huge force in my life. But when it comes to coaching specifically, there's so many aspects, your nutrition, your career, your interpersonal relationships. I have a huge passion of working with people of the LGBTQ persuasion. Um, and because there's so much that's going on that you're not willing to talk about and that you don't realize that it all ties together. So when
Mm,
I started your program, I didn't realize so much how much of my physicality and how much of my nutrition was really holding back my mindset, was really holding back my mood on so many things. Motivation, my discipline was really just kind of out the window. I could speak on it from a textbook perspective, but putting everything into practice, and this really was the missing puzzle piece. I'm not just blowing you up here. That really kind of tied it all together of being like, okay, showing up is showing up fully, you know? And you can't show up. I can't be a good husband. I can't be a good employee. I can't be a good brother, friend, etc. if I'm
mhm,
letting myself down
mhm.
in certain areas of my life. So I needed to invest into those certain areas. And the people that really love you are going to understand that. Like no one's going, like when I started this, it's like I had to realize I was like, no one's going to implode if I go to the gym for an hour before we have dinner and watch TV.
Yeah.
Know what I mean? So
Feels like
investing
it
in that,
though.
yeah, it does feel like it, right? You're like, if I don't sit down and watch The Last of Us or like whatever show is on at the time, I'm going to die. And realizing that once you invest in the bank of you, I like to call it, um, everything else is just so much more fruitful. So, but everybody has their own journey. So I really like to speak with different folks, ask the right questions, and kind of help them figure it out for themselves.
Here's a good one for you that I know I think we talked about a little bit before, and I've talked with others, but how do you both personally and in your profession, how do you coach people and yourself through the fact that like self-love might be a little selfish, but like it's also self-care. Like how like going to the gym when your husband's at home
Mhm.
waiting, hasn't seen you all day because you've been at work. How do you kind of help others understand that and yourself that like you need to do that for you so then you can show up better for everybody else? Because I'm sure that was a struggle at first, like you mentioned.
Absolutely. When it comes to the gym in my life at home, nobody, well, in life in general, I guess, nobody ever feels bad after going to the gym. Like, I haven't heard a single person being like, oh, I hate myself for running on the treadmill, right?
Yeah.
So once you experience that surge of, God, I crushed it. I crushed that 30, 45 minute, whatever. Um, you're bringing a new energy to the people that you're around.
Mm.
I think it was about 2 months in, um, where I first started noticing a little bit of a difference in my physicality. Um, when clothes start to fit a little better, you walk with a little spring in your step. You know what I
Mm.
mean? I had just gotten to a point now when that we're 3 months in where I feel okay tucking my shirt in
Mm.
when I go to work. Before, I would just let it be billowy because I think I would hide myself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But now I walk a little bit more proud. Um, I show up to my meetings a little bit more present. If I get that good night's sleep, I'm energized, ready to go. Um, I take self-care to a little bit of a more intense level than I think a lot of my friends would, because it's what I think about morning, noon, and night. I start my morning with a meditation. I listen to a personal development podcast on my 30-minute ride to work. If I'm doing heads down work at work, I have it in my AirPods. I talk about it at home. It's constant.
You and I are so alike, and I think that's why this has gone so well. Because I'm the same. I haven't really done much meditation. I'm trying to get more into it, but just as of recent, like trying to wake up earlier, set a
Hmm.
slower morning, just kind of like relax, read something, like read a professional development, some kind of book of that nature. And always, it's always a podcast on the way to work, on the way home. My fiance, if we're going somewhere, she should like no podcast, like she just wants to talk or something. Because it's always YouTube, Spotify, like just trying to learn
Hmm.
something, and always like that constant improvement. Have you had anybody that you've worked with that has been, whether it's fitness or not, but like trying to integrate more like self-care and has had pushback, or even yourself, pushback from family, friends, spouses that are like, that's kind of selfish of them. Like they should be spending time with me, but they're doing something for themselves.
Definitely. It helps that I do work in human resources because so
Mhm.
I'm like I'm that for my company. So a lot of people who would come to me and talk to me about their own aspects of their life. But I do have a friend who had expressed feeling bad taking that time for themselves. And you just have to ask the right questions, because then you help the individual get to the root. Because as coaches, right, you know this as well, our job is to hold that mirror up to the person and have them see the person that they really can be. And they
Mm.
could map the path out themselves. We don't need to do it for them. You just give them a whole bunch of tools and they could choose their own adventure to get
Mm.
there, right? So having somebody realize that to get to the next frequency, to get to the next level, you need to commit to those, even if it's 5 minutes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Even if it's a journal prompt, if it's a 3-minute meditation, resetting is huge. I had just talked about this the other day that every day when I come home, I pull into my parking space. Um, my husband had noticed I had kind of changed my way of acting because before I would come home and throw the door open and kind of complain about my day for 45 minutes, an hour, all of that. Um, but really taking that time to decompress, it's 30 minutes from my office to my house, and then I take 2 minutes in my parking space to reset before I go inside. And that is huge because by the time I come in, he's like, "How's your day?" I'm like, "That was fine." Because it was,
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah,
I think in both of what we do, I mean, like any kind of people facing jobs, you carry a lot of others' baggage to some degree. And I've always noticed that too. Like it's hard to get home and kind of like flip the switch. Like I am in a good mood. I did have a good day, but it's like, man, there's just like a lot that I kind of heard and talked through and stuff like that. And it's like hard just to get back into that front facing happy mood when you're just kind of emotionally tapped. You've
absolutely.
given all of you that day, and that's why it's so important, like we've talked about, to fill your cup first so that you can continue to give and give each day.
Definitely.
But
And to kind of give an even more pointed answer to your question, when at work, it's so easy for people to be like, "Oh my God, if I don't get this deadline done, this person's going to think that I'm an idiot. This person's going to be really upset. Oh my God, they hate me because I haven't gotten them the brief," whatever. getting people to really slow down and understand what's actually happening here. Like, did they say that you're an idiot? No, they didn't. Okay. So what are we trying to solve here? I have
Yeah.
to get the brief to them by 1 o'clock. Okay, so what do you need to get the brief to them by 1 o'clock? Oh, well, I just need to close the door and just put heads down for 30 minutes and then I could get it out. Okay, wonderful. You know?
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. So to
Yep.
sum it up, then you would say this kind of fitness journey you've been on has improved. I don't know
Yes.
what is opposite, just okay. It's made work, life, it's improved quality of life and quality of work.
It's given me a fresh way of showing up. I've taken turning 35 very, very hard. But being able to invest in myself, being able to put that time in to commit to myself makes me a better employee and it makes me a better husband by far. Um, and being able to, it helps me enjoy my life that much more. So.
I love it. I love it. And maybe for those out there that are going to be hopefully watching this, number one, what would you kind of encourage them if they're on the fence about maybe undertaking this journey of their own? What are some aspects of either my program or just in general? Like, why would you advocate for someone to take that next step and that leap of faith?
I think before someone really commits to a program, really understand the person.
Hmm.
I followed a ton of fitness folks on Instagram, TikTok, what have you, but what really drew me to this program was you. You're non-judgmental. You really work with people. You hear them out, what they have to say, what their insecurities are, and you really help them map out how they're going to get to their goals and realize if they need to pivot, they could pivot. It's okay. It's chill. I had met with a couple of people who, once I told them that I wasn't comfortable with this element of the program, I was actually called lazy. Well, if you want to be fat, go ahead and do that. But that wasn't your approach. And again, I think you and I had chatted for maybe 6 months before I really committed. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I would tell people really watch who you're taking this program from all around, not just the program, how they live their life, their values, what, when it's not about fitness stuff, what else are they putting out on social media? Do they align with where you are?
Sure. I love that. Well, and I know you just told me you're starting the blog back up. Where can others find you if they want to get more of your wonderful wisdom?
Yeah, absolutely. So you could find me at Jay Konjarski on Instagram. I know Konjarski is Kenjarski. And my blog, Awake in a Line, for coaching. And I'm also on TikTok.
I love it. I love it. Well, thank you, Jay. I appreciate it. I'm gonna pause the recording, but we can keep chatting.